Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another live stream. It is the game review. Everton 0, Aston Villa 0 at Goodison Park last night. It feels a little bit strange doing this video after the live stream that we've just done confirming Everton's second breach of Premier League profit and sustainability rules. The Premier League has referred Everton to an independent commission after they found them to have breached another Premier League profit and sustainability rule, despite the fact that it refers to the exact same breach that we've already been punished for. Everton will now once again undergo an independent commission, and we will then see whether or not we're going to be punished again. Nottingham Forest also in the same boat this time around, but obviously they haven't already received a 10-point deduction this season. So whatever the outcome of that independent commission will be, I'm sure we will just have to wait and see. But there is a game of football to be spoken about, and I apologise if I seem a little bit down. I apologise if I seem a little bit lacking of energy. I apologise if I seem a little bit broken, and that's because I simply am. To be perfectly honest with you, we spoke last night about this game and how it wasn't a particularly entertaining game of football anyway. However, the sort of one moment that just made me realise that I'm not quite sure that I want to continue following this sport anymore was the VAR decision to disallow Aston Villa's goal. And I think that's a prime example of just how bad things are at the moment in the Premier League, and just how bad things are at the moment with football in this country is when a decision goes your way at a moment in a game where we needed it to go our way because we were struggling. Villa were getting control of the ball. Villa were moving the ball forward. Villa were threatening us. And, you know, for that goal to be disallowed at that time was a hugely important moment for Everton and obviously hugely benefited Everton. And yet still, I found myself sitting back thinking, is this really what football is now? Is this really what football has become? Are we in a position now where we're having to wait 4 minutes, nearly 5 minutes, for a decision to be made on whether or not a player is offside? Surely it can't take 5 minutes for them to come to that decision. And then if they come to the decision, it's offside, and I was sort of sitting in the stadium thinking, wow, it must have been tight. Thankfully, we've got away with that from Happy Days, with that one Happy Days. And then the incident was flashed up on the screens at Goodison Park for a split second, and it becomes quite obvious that A, Leon Bailey is about 2.5 miles offside. In fact, he's got a full leg offside. He's got a whole leg in front of where Arnold Danjuma's shoulder is, who was the furthest forward Everton player. And secondly, Arnold Danjuma is as far forward as he is because he's on the floor because he's being fouled. And those two things were so blatantly obvious. And yet, you might say, well, Cam, you can't complain because they got it right. So what are you complaining about? But I can complain. I can complain. Because if I hired an accountant to do my books and I ran a hugely successful business and I brought this accountant in and he took 45 minutes working out what 1 + 1 is, even if he got to the conclusion of 2, I could still say, well, the fact it's just taking you that long to work that out is a little bit worrying considering, you know, some of the situations you're going to have to deal with. And it's the exact same position. The fact that it took them that long to come to the conclusion that Leon Bailey was offside when the rest of the 40,000 people within Goodison Park saw it for literally about 12 seconds and could determine it was offside within that period of time is beyond me. Absolutely beyond me. And again, it further adds to the I don't even think we can call it a sport anymore. It further adds to this nonsense activity that we watch week in, week out. And as I've always said, I love this football club with all my heart, and I'd follow Everton in the Premier League, I'd follow Everton in the Championship, I'd follow Everton in Vanarama League 1, I'd follow Everton if they were packing shelves in the local supermarket, but it's becoming more and more difficult to enjoy this sport now. and it's becoming harder and harder and harder to motivate yourself to get up on a Wednesday night and go and sit in the pissing down rain, freezing cold weather to watch referees take 4.5 minutes to determine what quite blatantly is an offside decision. You add that on top of the fact that you can't celebrate a goal anymore. You can't celebrate a good tackle because you don't know whether or not it's going to be determined as a red card. I mean, I've even seen Aston Villa fans on social media today talking about how James Tarkowski should have been sent off for what was a perfectly timed tackle in the box in which he won the ball. These are the same Aston Villa fans, by the way, that will be moaning at some point this season about VAR not giving them a correct decision, or VAR sending one of their players off for what shouldn't have been a sending off. And by the way, that will happen. To any Aston Villa fans watching this live stream now, it's coming for you. They will come for you. Because as I've just explained in our previous live stream, the last thing that Richard Masters in the Premier League wants is Aston Villa getting anywhere near that top four. So they will come for you, and you'll be on your... you will be on the end of some awful decisions between now and the end of the season. And when those decisions happens, I don't want to hear fucking any of you coming out and complaining about them. I don't want to hear any of you coming out and complaining about when one of your players gets sent off for a nonsense challenge. Because the amount of cry-arsing I've seen on social media today from Aston Villa fans, how is Tarkowski not being sent off, this, that and the other? He won the ball in the challenge. Was it a hard tackle? Yes. Welcome to fucking football. Some tackles are hard. That's why it's a physical contact sport. If you don't want to make it, if you want to make it a non-physical contact sport, and this is to Richard Masters, by the way, and his fucking absolute idiots at the Premier League. If you want to make this a non-contact sport, then let me know, because I'll go now. I'll walk away now. I'll stop watching Everton. I'll stop talking about the channel. I'll walk away now if you want to make this a non-contact sport, because there was absolutely nothing wrong with that challenge yesterday. Nothing wrong whatsoever. Brandwaite's quite lucky that the player doesn't go down because he sticks a foot out, and we all know in this day and age, if you stick a foot out and you don't make contact with the ball, it's more than likely a penalty. So Brandwaite is a little bit lucky, but there is nothing wrong with the James Tarkowski challenge whatsoever. As well as the fact that all these Villa fans talking about how dirty Everton... And this isn't every Villa fan, by the way. I'm just referring to the ones I've seen on social media. I'm sure there's a lot of Villa fans that think it was a great tackle and it should never have been a penalty, etc., etc., etc. Fair play to them. But to those Villa fans that think Everton are a disgrace and were there to try and hurt Aston Villa yesterday and volley them around and wanted to make it too rough, just a reminder, Aston Villa received 4 yellow cards yesterday. Everton received 1 yellow card in which the referee didn't even give a free kick. He gave a throw-in. He yellow carded James Tarkowski for winning the ball and then gave a throw-in. Let's not forget Ollie Watkins elbowing James Tarkowski. We just forgetting that. Is that allowed? Okay, that's allowed then. Let's not forget the numerous challenges that your midfield threw in and got away with yesterday. We forgetting them? Okay, we're forgetting them as well. It was a physical game of football. A physical game of football between a mid-table side, or a side that should be mid-table, and a side that are doing really, really well for themselves this year. But this notion that Aston Villa were absolutely brilliant and deserved to win and Everton were just dirty and just fouled all day is bollocks. Aston Villa were terrible yesterday. Absolutely terrible yesterday. Were Everton much better? No, they weren't. No, they weren't. I thought it was a pretty dross game of football. Both teams had a couple of big chances, but that was it. Other than that, it was a dross game of football. And if Aston Villa fans think that that was a great performance and they deserved more, they ain't going to even finish in the top 8. Never mind the top 4. Because it was what it was, and Villa have done brilliantly this season, and I've got no issue with it. I'd quite like Villa to finish in that top 2 or 3 and put the finger up to the establishment. I think it would be quite nice to see. But call a spade, lads. You weren't very good yesterday, and neither were we, and that was why it wasn't a very good game of football whatsoever, and that's why it ended goalless. Both teams had chances. Both teams had opportunities. As I said, Villa probably were the team more in control. They had more of the possession. They were more of a threat with the possession. I thought defensively, Everton were brilliant. To be honest, I thought defensively Everton were absolutely fantastic. We were really strong. We dealt with everything we needed to. We dealt with Ollie Watkins, who's been one of the, one of the top strikers in the league this season. Has had a really, really good season, and we dealt with him without any real issue. And for me, as I said yesterday in the instant match reaction, our biggest problem at the moment, aside to the off the pitch stuff with the points deduction and the looming potential new punishments for whatever that will be. And by the way, I forgot to mention this in the video before, so I'll mention it now. Anybody waiting up anxiously expecting Everton to receive another points deduction tonight or receive a fine tonight, it isn't happening. What happens in this situation is you find out whether or not you are guilty of a breach, and then if you are not guilty, you move on and get on with the rest of your day. If you are guilty, you are referred to an independent commission like we were last time, and it takes around 4 to 6 weeks before that commission comes up with a punishment. So Everton will not find out what the punishments will be, if any, for another 4 to 5 weeks. So I wouldn't stress yourself out about it even more than we already are stressing about it. We ain't going to find that out today. All of this talk of there's a new 6-point deduction, nobody knows what the deduction is going to be because it's not been decided yet. So don't listen to Footy Insider talking shite or any other media company talking shite. Nobody knows what the punishment is going to be yet. Some news reporters knew that we were going to be found guilty, hence why it was leaked yesterday by David Ornstein. But in terms of the punishment, nobody knows yet because it's not being decided. So let's just hold off on that one for a second. But aside from all of that, and the obvious issues, I think our biggest on the field issue at this moment is we don't create enough chances, and in turn we don't score enough goals, and the chances that we do create we aren't taking. And that, I think, was the sort of big thing to take from yesterday. Everton weren't great yesterday by any sense of the imagination, and as I said before, neither were Aston Villa. Aston Villa probably feel like they were the better team, probably feel like they might have deserved more out of the game, but I personally feel like Everton deserved more out of the game as well. So, again, it's all about opinions, isn't it? And everybody's entitled to their own one. But I think at the moment we've got a really solid back line, a really solid defensive line, and a really solid defensive group that are capable of keeping clean sheets and are capable of keeping some of the, informed forwards in the league out. I think we've got a decent midfield who more often than not put themselves about, work hard and put good performances in and battle and get about the pitch and cause issues to teams. But I think our forward line is lacking. And I think it's lacking hugely. And again, we saw that yesterday, and I've said this before, and I've expressed my concerns about this before, and sometimes people agree with me, sometimes people don't agree with me. I'm just not sure we're getting enough from the forward line. As hard as Jack Harrison may work, as hard as Dwight McNeil might work, as hard as Dominic Calvert-Lewin might work, I'm just not sure we're getting enough from them. Abdoulaye Doucouré obviously played yesterday, and to be fair, I don't think Abdoulaye had his greatest game in an Everton shirt. I don't think he was brilliant, but you can't really put much blame on him. He's been absolutely fantastic this season, and if it wasn't for Abdoulaye Doucouré, who knows where Everton would be. But the others, as I said, it gets to a point, and it gets to a stage where working hard and having a go and battling and putting yourself about is just not good enough. Yes, that is the expectation, and I'll never come on here and have a go at a player for not being good enough if they are working hard and if they are battling and if they are putting themselves about and fighting for challenges, etc, etc, etc. However, it does have to be said that we are not getting enough out of our forward line at the moment, and yesterday I think was a big example of that. I've said this before and I'll say it again. I'm not sure what Jack Harrison offers. I'm just not sure what Jack Harrison offers. And I know a lot of people will be upset with that statement and tell me that he's had X, amount of goal involvements and this, that, and the other, and maybe I'm just not seeing it. Maybe every goal, pardon me, that Everton score, Jack Harrison is involved in. Maybe that's the case, and maybe I'm just not seeing it. But for me, I sort of look and think he should be given more. We should be getting more from him. He's quick. He can beat a man. He's talented. And yeah, he's got a good ability. He's got a good weak foot. He's got a good strong foot. And yeah, for the majority of the game, he just runs around. And when he's got the ball, more often than not, he'll just run into an opposition player and get it taken off him. And that isn't good enough. It isn't good enough. He needs to do more. And he's not alone, by the way. Dwight McNeil on the other side is exactly the same. I know Dwight McNeil didn't play yesterday and obviously is coming back from an injury, but we need more from Dwight. Dwight was, without a shadow of a doubt, our best player last season and our most important player. And if it wasn't for Dwight McNeil, Everton probably would be playing in the Championship at the moment. But he's just not brought enough this season. And I know he struggled with injury and I know he struggled with fitness, and I get all of that, but we need more from him. Arnold Danjuma, I thought he was okay yesterday. Pardon me. I thought he created a couple of chances. I thought he moved the ball well at times. I thought he played a couple of really nice, neat passes in behind the Aston Villa defence that could have possibly created opportunities for us, but unfortunately, nobody was on the end of them, and the one that somebody was on the end on was Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who ultimately missed. But again, did he do enough yesterday? Did he blow anybody's skate up? Did he make anybody think, you know what, he was outstanding today? He was probably better than everybody else in that forward line, granted, but he wasn't outstanding. He wasn't somebody you looked at and thought, you know what, he was absolutely unbelievable there. He deserves to start week in, week out. He was brilliant. That wasn't the case. That wasn't the case. He ran round, he played a couple of good passes, and people might say, it's a little bit harsh to criticise him, but we need more. We need more from him. And we're not getting that at this moment. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, I said last week, for me, Dom needs taken out the team now. He needs time to rest. He needs time to be on the bench. He needs time to assess the situation that is ongoing at the moment with him, because he's just not the player we need him to be at the moment. He's not confident in front of goal. He's making rash decisions. He's not taking the opportunities that are being presented to him. And ultimately, that chance yesterday, every single Premier League striker should be able to take that chance. And I'm not saying that, because he didn't take that chance, he's absolutely terrible and we should get rid of him and he should never play for Everton again. Ultimately, players miss chances. Players miss big one-on-ones. Players miss opportunities all the time. It is what it is. But Dom misses those types of opportunities far too many times than he scores them. And he's always been the same, by the way. He's always been the same. Dominic Calvert-Lewin has always been the type of player who will score a goal with 4 players around him by knocking it past one of them and putting it in the back of the net. But when it comes to a one-on-one opportunity where he only has to take the keeper on or dink it over him or go around him, he just can't seem to do it. It's almost like the more time he's got to think about what he needs to do, the worst decision he makes, as opposed to when he's only got a split second to think about it. Like the West Ham goal, for example, where he only had a split second, he made his decision, a great turn and a great finish. Whereas yesterday, he's got a little bit more time to think about it. He rushes his shot and it's saved by the keeper. And I've seen a couple of people on social media today saying about how great of a save it is by Emiliano Martinez. It isn't a great save whatsoever. It looks a great save because Dominic Calvert-Lewin has missed and it's ultimately earned Aston Villa a point. So it looks a great save. But in reality, it's not a great save. It's a terrible miss. It's a terrible miss by a striker who, like I've said, needs for me to take a little bit of time out now, because he's playing a lot of football at the moment, and he just doesn't seem to be. He seems to be lost. I know we had he had the sending off situation, and I know it was never a sending off, and it's ultimately been rescinded, and I get that. But again, his face when that VAR check was taking place before he was sent off, he just looked lost. He looked confused. He looked like he needed a little bit of time out the team. And I know when I get it, it's difficult because, Beto hasn't exactly come on and lit the world on fire, has he? He come on again yesterday, and although he didn't have much time to impact the game, the time that he did have, he had absolutely no impact on the game whatsoever. So I get it. I understand it, and I understand the need for Dominic Calvert-Lewin to be in and around the first team if he's fit, because he offers us so much more than just being a striker. But the reality is, like I said yesterday, Dom being great at holding the ball up, Dom being great at, bringing other players into play, Dom being great in the air, Dom being strong, Dom being physical, Dom being fast, it's all well and good, but his primary job, his number one job, is to be able to put the ball in the back of the net. And he can't do that at the moment. And I would rather have a striker that knows how to put the ball in the back of the net and puts the ball in the back of the net near enough every time they are presented with an opportunity, than one that is absolutely brilliant at everything else but can't put the ball in the back of the net. And unfortunately, it seems like that's what we've got with Dominic Calvert-Lewin at the moment. And I think yesterday was another example of that. It's a golden chance. It's an absolute golden chance. And maybe on the surface of things, a point and a draw was the fair result, for both sides. But that doesn't matter, does it? It's not about what was the fair result. It's about the fact that we had a huge opportunity to win the game, and we didn't take it because our striker couldn't put the ball in the back of the net. So, yeah, very difficult position, very difficult situation. Ultimately, a point against a team that are challenging for the league title at the moment, and that's what Aston Villa are, whether we like it or not, whether we, whether we're a little bit jealous or not. Aston Villa are a team that are challenging at the top, for the Premier League title. So a point against the side that is doing as well as what they're doing, and is as good as they are at the moment, and has scored as many goals as what they have. I think it's been a while since a team stopped Aston Villa from scoring, obviously, before last night. So, it's not the worst point in the world. It's not the worst result in the world. It's not the, the most frustrating result, but it did just feel a little bit to me like a missed chance. And I'm not overly upset or gutted or fuming that Everton haven't beaten Aston Villa and have only taken a point from that game, but I am slightly worried that it's now been 5 weeks since we last won a Premier League game. Our last Premier League win, was against Burnley, which I will tell you now, bear with me 2 seconds, was on the 16th of December. So a month tomorrow since Everton last won a game of football. Since then, we've obviously drew with Fulham, but lost on penalties, lost to Spurs, lost to City, lost to Wolves, drew with Palace, and drew with Villa. So Wednesday night is now huge, not only in terms of getting through into the next round of the FA Cup, but also getting a win under our belt, because it's been far too long since we last had one, and that for me is the most frustrating thing about yesterday. It's not because we drew with Aston Villa. It's because we had a big opportunity to win the game and we didn't take it. And when you've not won a game for almost a month, that then becomes hugely frustrating. Even if you are playing against one of the title contenders, and even if you did put in a good defensive performance, and even if it wasn't a great game and both teams were a little bit subpar, I get all of that and I understand all of that. But it's still frustrating for me that Dom didn't take that chance, and that ultimately we didn't come away with anything from the game. Villa had their fair share of opportunities as well. It would be silly of me to not mention those. They had a couple of big chances. Obviously, the disallowed goal we'll get into in a moment. But Jordan Pickford was obviously brought into action a couple of times to make a couple of good saves. Saves that you would expect him to make, but good saves nonetheless. One player who I did think was hugely impressive yesterday and once again deserves a massive amount of credit is Vitaly Mykolenko. I spoke about him on the player ratings, of course, and we clipped it up and put it on social media last night. And I think Vitaly Mykolenko's performance yesterday really embodied what Everton Football Club needs to be in the few months that follow now. You know, we've just heard of the news today that Everton have been charged with another breach of profit and sustainability, meaning we will be referred to a independent commission once again. And as I've said before, and I will say again, I'm getting to the point now with football and with Premier League football where I'm not quite sure how much more I want to tolerate. I'm not quite sure how much more I can tolerate because it's just completely destroying me and it's completely breaking me inside and out. But like I said yesterday, Vitaly Mykolenko was doing well, having a good game, defending well, battling, putting himself about, working hard, and then he got a huge head injury. At one point, pardon me, I didn't think he was going to be able to continue. At one point, he looked like he was going to have to come off. He was lying on the floor. He didn't move for a couple of minutes, which was really concerning. And I remember sitting there thinking and saying to me, Dad, this doesn't look good. This, we might have to go off and be replaced there. And then he gets up. He looked dazed. He looked like he didn't really know where he was, but obviously he did with the new rules and the concussion rules and that. I'm sure they made sure that he was okay. And he went off, he got bandaged up, and he come back on. And often when players receive, quite an extensive injury, and often when players receive an injury, in which it was a bit of a close call, especially when it's to the head and it's potential head trauma, if they are allowed to continue, which more often than not in this day and age, they're not allowed to continue because of the concussion rule, which is why I was a little bit surprised that he did come back on yesterday. But if they are allowed to continue, then more often than not, they don't really want to get back involved with the physicality of the game. They don't really want to throw themselves about. They don't really want to get involved with challenges or get involved with headers or jump into 50-50s because naturally they are fearful, because naturally they'll be thinking, well, bloody hell, last time I did that, I got a big knock to the head, and if I get another knock to the head like that, then who knows how serious that might be. That wasn't the case with Vitaly last night. He come back on, and he battled, he fought for every ball, he jumped up for every header, he threw himself in the way of Matty Cash shot, which would have almost certainly been a goal. And had it have been a goal, would have meant Everton would have lost the game. But he lashed himself in front of it to deny it. And that mentality and that attitude, as I've just said, it sounds cringy to say and it sounds a bit cliche to say, but it is like a warrior attitude. It is like a warrior mentality of, even though he's been hurt, even though he may be thinking in the back of his head, well, I don't really want to get hit again, he still has gone out and played exactly how he would have played had he have not been injured. And that is a human embodiment of how we all need to be with this football club going forward now. We have had numerous knocks to the head over the last 2 and 3 years as Evertonians. We have had numerous situations where, as I said in the previous team, we have been lying helpless on the floor. Pardon me, my throat is in bits here. I've just done another hour live stream. My throat is absolutely on its arse. Ooh. And to make it worse, that's just gone down the wrong hole. We have had numerous situations over the course of the last couple of years or so where like I said before, it has felt like we've been lying on the floor, helpless, unable to get up, and we've been repeatedly kicked in the head. And that is what it feels like again today, after the news that we're being referred to an independent commission, again, for the same charge we were referred to previously. But we need to embody exactly what Vitaly Mykolenko embodied yesterday in picking ourselves up and fighting for this football club with every fibre of our body and with every chance that we get. And as difficult as that may be, as hard as that may be, and as much as it might seem at times that it's pointless and it's not worth it and we're wasting our time and we're wasting our energy, we can't have that attitude. We need to have an attitude of, this is our football club and we are not going to let this football club rot under our watch. And we're not going to let the Premier League destroy our football club in the way that they are trying to do under our watch. It isn't happening. It just simply isn't happening. Like I said, I thought Vitaly yesterday was absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Villa did have a goal in that first half that obviously was disallowed through offside, and it was at a period in a game where they were controlling the ball. They were controlling the momentum. They were controlling the speed of the game. They were controlling pretty much everything to do with the game. And I remember thinking at that time, you know, we're going to have to really soak up this pressure here, because, you know, they were putting a lot of pressure on us, and it's difficult when that happens. It's difficult when a team who are doing well and are confident and you know, in a good position in the league start to put the foot on the pedal and start to apply pressure, because it makes it much more difficult to defend against. And like I said, I thought generally yesterday defensively we were really solid. I thought Mykolenko was absolutely outstanding, as I've just mentioned. I thought Seamus Coleman put in a fantastic performance on his 355th appearance for Everton in the Premier League. I thought Jared Branthwaite was solid. I thought James Tarkowski was solid. I thought everybody in that back line did their job and did their job well. Thanks, Wonderlust, by the way. I've just seen that message. I appreciate that. And as I said, it was just one moment where, you know, they found a little bit of space. They rolled the ball out to the edge of the box and it was put into the back of the net. And then obviously, when it was being checked for VAR, and I remember thinking, I'm sure this is offside, because I remember seeing it in real time, and obviously you can't be too sure when you see it in real time, especially from where I was sat. I was sat at the complete other end of the stadium, so I wasn't completely sure, but I remember thinking he looked quite a distance offside there, and I know I'm the other end of the pitch, and that can cause some sight issues, but he really did look quite significantly offside. And then it takes 4.5 minutes to come to the decision, to come to the conclusion. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, surely it must be closer than what I originally thought for it to take this long. Surely it can't. And then it gets to a point where, with VAR, I think, where after a certain time, a couple of minutes, say, you sort of sit there and you think, well, this must be tight, this, because they're taking a while on it. But then it gets to a point 3-4 minutes later where you're almost sitting there saying, it can't take this long. It surely can't take this long. Even if it's tight, even if it's, you know, whatever, a couple of inches in it or whatever it might be, it can't take this long. This is ruining the game. You're sitting there in the freezing cold weather. The players are standing there freezing cold. Bodies are seizing up because they're not moving. You know, top level athletes who need to be on the go constantly. And it's taken 4.5 minutes to make a decision. And that, I think, is the important thing here, is you can have decisions that take longer than other decisions because they're a little bit tighter, or they're less obvious, or they're less clear. Or they're less clear and obvious, some would say. But it gets to a point where it's no longer acceptable when it's taken 4.5 minutes to check a decision. And it also, and this might seem a little bit ironic for me to say because this goes against Everton, but it also then isn't clear and obvious. If it's taken 4.5 minutes, it's not clear and obvious. Except this one was clear and obvious because he clearly had a full leg offside. And it flashed up, literally, as I said before, it flashed up for about 10 seconds, if that, on the screens at Goodison Park. And the whole stadium groaned. including the Aston Villa fans, who could quite obviously tell that he was offside and that it should have been disallowed. And I just remember sitting there thinking, how have they just taken 4.5 minutes to decide whether Leon Bailey is offside? And then I'm hearing people on social media saying, well, Leon Bailey didn't have any impact on the goal. He got the assist. He played the ball. Of course he's had an impact on the goal, and he's standing in an offside position. Not only that, the player that is potentially keeping him on is Arnaud Danjuma, who's on the floor because he's being dragged down. So not only is it clearly offside, but it's a clear foul as well. And I just don't understand how these things can take as long as they do. I don't get it. And when it was given, and then you see it back, again, I'm sort of sitting there thinking, is this really what football has become? Not only can you now not celebrate goals on the fear that it's going to be disallowed and you're going to look like a bit of an idiot, but even the blatantly obvious decisions, it's not getting right. Even the blatantly obvious offsides, it's taken 4.5 minutes to decide. It's not football anymore. It's not the football that we, grew to love growing up. It's not the same sport. It's unrecognisable. It's completely and utterly unrecognisable. And that, again, further confirmed it yesterday. I thought we did better in the second half. Don't get me wrong, I still think Villa had the more of the possession and were probably the more attacking team, but I thought Everton did better at keeping them at bay and reducing them to very few opportunities, and the opportunities that they did have, they were forced into through crosses or long balls up, etc, etc. I thought defensively, as I said before, we were really, really solid. Thought the midfield was solid as well. Thought James Garner ran round, put himself about, worked hard, battled in there. Fought for every ball, the type of stuff that you expect from him, but the type of stuff that he does every week. And I thought Amadou Onana was absolutely fantastic. And he's got a lot of stick of late, Amadou Onana, for his performances, and specifically for the penalty against Fulham. But yesterday, I thought he was absolutely brilliant. I thought he was fairly faultless yesterday. He battled, he worked hard, he put himself about. He won the ball back in important areas. He was good in the air. He was good on the floor. His challenges were good, were clever as well. Thought he was really, really solid yesterday, Amadou Onana. Really, really solid. And then it almost felt for the last sort of 15, 20 minutes that both teams simultaneously were happy with a point. Villa were getting forward and were having the odd attack, and we were getting forward and having the odd attack, but neither team particularly put their foot on the gas and went sort of balls to the wall to go and win the game. Neither team particularly did that. I thought both sides were relatively reserved for that last 15, 20 minutes, and it got to a point where we were just sitting in the freezing cold watching a game of footy that neither team were particularly interested in winning, I felt. Everton did score right towards the end, of course, and it was ruled out, and rightly so. Abdoulaye Doucouré is standing in an offside position, but I thought it was interesting how it took them about 3 seconds to decide that one was offside, but it took them 4 minutes to decide that Leon Bailey was offside, which I thought was quite interesting and rather telling. But we saw the game out, and we come away with a point, and ultimately that was really all there was to talk about. Nothing much happened other than that, did it? There wasn't much action. Like I said, Villa had a couple of opportunities. One that flashed past the post, which was, I had my heart in my mouth. The Blues says, not going to lie, I completely forgot the match review with all this shit going on. Yeah, same, mate. To be honest, same. And that's why I've not been particularly high energised in this video. That and the fact that the game was pretty terrible anyway, wasn't it? But, just a dull game of football, really. At a dull time for the football club. And ultimately we take the point and we move on from it. As I said, my brain is absolutely smashed at the moment. I cannot wait until this Palace game's out the way. I cannot wait. I think we've got, a 10-day break, is it? A 12-day break? Something like that. Someone will let me know in the comments. And I cannot wait. I'm going to take a good few days off doing the videos as well, just because I think I need a bit of time to sit back and just not think about Everton and not think about football and refresh, because it's really, really getting me down. It's really, really getting me down. And that news today has just been another kick in the teeth, hasn't it? So there you go. We are going to leave it there. If you have enjoyed this one, please do leave a like. Nothing much happened in the game other than those opportunities that we've spoken about. Pretty dull game, but a point against the title challenging side. You take that and you move on, don't you? If you have enjoyed this one, please do hit that like button. It does only take a second. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. That would mean a huge, huge amount to me as well. We'll be back tomorrow with the preview to that game against Crystal Palace, so don't forget to join us for that one. Check out our live stream regarding Everton's new FFP charge as well. That is up on the channel now, so go and check that out. But yeah, until then, big thanks for watching. Leave a like if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new, and we'll see you after.